Please welcome Wayne Perry. Hi. I was jolted back to consciousness by the loud sounds and jostling vibrations of propellers. I was in a large military-type helicopter. The invasive sounds couldn't drown out the fearful thoughts and dreaded anticipation. There was a hard and tight collar around my neck, connected to a long cable with a large metal hoop at the end of it. I could see through the open door of the copter that we were flying, circling some tall buildings of some downtown city. A burly-looking man picked up the large hoop as another big guy grabbed me from behind and started dragging me toward the open door. My inner terror reached a fever pitch. Who are these people? What the hell is going on? As we hovered over a tall, pointed-top skyscraper, to my shock and disbelief, the man with the hoop threw it right over the needle-top tower, ringing it, just as the other man tossed me out the door. As my body crashed into the building, I felt my neck snap. But somehow I was still alive as I swung helplessly in fear and pain from the very top of the structure, high above the ground. I have no idea how many days or weeks I hung there in pain and disbelief, but just as I seemed to be nearing my last breath, there was a sudden flash of white light and everything started vibrating and the scene dramatically changed. I was in a darkened room. I remember now. I'm in UCLA Medical Center. I'm in a coma. As my memory returned, I remember that this terrifying experience was maybe the 8th or 9th in a series of frightening nightmares, hallucinations, or perhaps even past life glimpses, where I was very realistically chased, hunted down, captured, tortured, and then murdered with no memory of who or where I was. And then I would repeatedly return to my awareness of my karma coma in the hospital. What on earth have I done to deserve this endless torture, I wondered. As I lie there fearfully awaiting my next frightening nightmare, I pondered the events that led me here. In the early 2000s, I was, to my surprise, diagnosed with hepatitis C and told it was an incurable and fatal disease. What? I've always been in good health. It was also suggested I go in for testing of my liver as hepatitis C virulently attacks the liver, eventually causing cirrhosis, as drinking alcohol does. How could this happen? I'm a non-drinking, non-smoking vegan, for Christ's sake. I initially ignored their advice, believing I could heal this disease with alternative holistic methodologies that I had successfully used with other past health issues. However, I later learned that I must have had the disease for at least 12 years with no symptoms, as I did, in fact, have severe cirrhosis. I became angry with the doctors for not having a vaccine. I also, for the first time in my life, became fearful of death. Since the liver disease was too advanced for healing, I applied for the transplant program at UCLA. After several years in the liver clinic, I developed a rare liver-related lung disease, hepatopulmonary syndrome. They wouldn't let me out of the clinic unless I agreed to go on oxygen 24/7. I got even angrier with the doctors. Why me, I asked. I'm a good person. I got angry with God. I don't want to die. Over the next 2 years, although my wife Nicole helped take care of me, I got progressively weaker. I guess it was too much for her. 2 months after renewing our 10-year wedding vows, Nicole left me. Why, I asked. She never did give me an answer, but I found out later she left me for a much younger man. So much for in sickness and in health. I don't want to be alone now. I don't want to die. I wept. The next year, finally, some good news. After furtively using sound therapy, which I had previously had successful experiences, I healed my hep C. The doctors repeatedly had laughed at me for months and said it wasn't possible. After extensive lab work, without being able to locate the disease in my body, they gave up, without acknowledging that I could have healed it. 3 weeks later, however, they started referring Hep C patients to me for sound therapy. I was amazed, but I wasn't out of the woods yet. I still needed a liver transplant to go on living. While driving home on the 101 one evening with oxygen tanks behind my seat, as usual, an uninsured motorist ran me off the freeway, pinning me under the dash. After pedestrians couldn't get me out of my smoking car, I blacked out. I came to later as a CHP officer dragged me out of the car just before it went up in flames. They rushed me to Good Samaritan Hospital with 2 fractured tibias and a broken hand. By the time I was transferred to UCLA Hospital 2 days later, they had taken me off the transplant list because of my condition and because I have no family members in LA to care for me. Now I'm angry at everybody. While in rehab, however, it gave me a chance to concentrate my healing practices on me and on my lungs and broken bones, as the doctors told me I wouldn't be able to walk for at least 6 months. Over the next few weeks, I became known as the crazy guy who sat outside in the patio, waving his legs in the air, doing physical therapy while making strange vocal sounds with my voice in sound therapy. Small sampling. Amazingly, I totally healed my lung disease, bringing my saturation levels up from only 78% to a healthy 98%, and walked out of rehab unaided 5 weeks after entering. So much for not walking for 6 months. Now I had to figure out how to get back on the liver transplant list. Destiny stepped in again. On December 24th, 2010, I fell down at home, fracturing my femur, and was rushed to UCLA Hospital again for what the doctors claimed was a needed hip replacement. So they thought. While waiting over the Christmas holiday for hip surgery, my liver and kidneys failed, putting me into this damn coma. Uh-oh. Everything's vibrating again. I have to try and prepare for more pain and torture. There's a burst of white light, and I find myself being wheeled down a bright hallway. But something's different. Am I in heaven? Or I suddenly see the face of my good friend Vince, who I actually see here tonight, and realize that I'm finally conscious and being wheeled into intensive care. I can't believe this coma is over. Vince tells me it's January 22nd, 2011, and I've been in this torturous coma for 30 days. I'm joyous. I had finally found the light at the end of the tunnel. Little did I know it would turn into an oncoming train. Fearing I might not be strong enough to handle the news, my friends waited a few days before telling me that the young couple who had sublet my rented home had defaulted on the rent and were subsequently evicted. As I was hanging out in another dimension somewhere, I was evicted too. I was now homeless. Worse still was the fact that in addition to losing my furniture and most of my belongings, my life savings of $10,000 in cash was stolen from my secret stash, either by the landlord or some cleaning person. I was angry again. Now homeless and penniless, and I was on kidney dialysis. What am I to do? I went into a deep depression. For 3 straight days, I meditated and begged God, who I was still angry with, by the way, to please take me home. I pleaded, get me out of this cruel and oppressive world, please. On the 3rd day of my meditation, I thought I was going crazy, when a voice kept repeating over and over in my head, saying, read your own book, dummy. Read your own book, dummy. I thought I was really losing it now. Suddenly I was interrupted by a sweet nurse who walked into my room and apologized for being so busy and put something on my bedside table. I looked down at my book, Sound Medicine. I got a chill up my spine, recalling just hearing, read your own book, dummy. Is this a sick joke? I don't remember this nurse or even having my book in here. I picked it up and began flipping through it. It had been a few years since it was published, and since I looked within it, I couldn't believe what I was reading and feeling. Now, I know if you're listening to this, it sounds like a shameless book promotion, but I swear, it's the honest to God truth. I quickly realized how far I had strayed from my own teachings and life philosophy. I was embarrassed to discover I had become a victim and allowed myself to become filled with anger, fear, judgments, and control issues. Everything I had always believed was unhealthy and disempowering. I now believe everything happens for our upliftment. I decided in that moment that only I can choose to feel like a victim, and I will never make this choice again. Only I can master my anger, fear, and control issues. I decided I could reinvent myself effortlessly by surrendering to and living in spirit. I subsequently healed my kidneys and got off dialysis in 1 year. It brings me great joy to share all this with you as a truly happy, peaceful, and grateful man. Gratitude is more than just a word. It's a way of life. Thank you for listening to my now wonderful life.